This is the first part of my 3.8 litre mini ITX personal build. So this was not going to be an easy build, to be honest, especially given this space. So the first thing that happened is I needed to bend the front panel a little bit by unscrewing some screws and removing the front USB port and power as well. And the Pico PSU plugs, the wires, they actually stick out in a really annoying orientation. They stick out into the front panel, and I kind of wish they were welded to the side at a 90-degree angle. Anyway, after cleaning things up and putting in the Pico PSU outlet plug, I managed to get the motherboard in and screwed down, and it actually looked pretty cool. Now, the funny thing is that I actually found out that the front panel just pops off like that. So I was struggling to get this motherboard in, and the front panel just pops off like that. So it just goes to show that when you receive a manual that's in another language and doesn't tell you anything in terms of instructions, and you're going to be struggling. But the next part was actually converting the graphics card backplate to a half-size backplate, which I just did then, and the half-size backplate therefore goes into the case like this. Now this is a brand new low-profile 3050 that's just been released, and they don't even sell it in Australia yet, so I managed to get it off Amazon sneakily. Now the first thing is that the cross member just gets in the way. It was just in the way. I just could not get the graphics card in, and the graphics card was sticking out by like a centimeter. So I had to get the drill out and just drill I think it was like a rivet off. So once I drilled that rivet off, I had the freedom of moving this cross member around to actually squeeze the graphics card in. Well, here's what I was hoping. So I was struggling, and then I managed to actually just get the graphics card seated in the PCI Express slot. So that was the first thing that I needed to do. But then I realized that it wasn't actually seated properly and didn't click into place like it normally does. And I was trying to figure out what was actually causing this. And then I realized that it was towards one side of the graphics card that wasn't clicking into place. And it turns out that you can see right there the little gap. So it turns out that the what do you call it? Like the back panel, there was a bit of metal sticking up, and it was preventing the graphics card from fully being seated downwards, if that makes any sense at all. So I needed to get some pliers, and I actually bent the two little pins outwards instead of inwards, so it would not make contact with the rear panel, and then it could actually seat down fully. So I think if those were slightly, at a straight angle, it probably would have worked, but for some reason they were angled the wrong way. So anyway, I managed to finally actually click that graphics card into place, which was extremely satisfying. And then I ended up just completely removing this bar here, this support beam, with the plan of, trying to work out what to do. But if you can see, the beam just wouldn't go in because the graphics card is actually in the way. The cooler just sort of sticks out. The other issue is the front panel connectors were in the way of the Pico PSU, so I thought about rerouting it with an extension cable like this, but that just wouldn't work due to the space restrictions. So I had to actually go to sleep and think of a solution for the next day. Now, I had the idea of potentially removing the front panel connectors so I can use the Pico PSU And who knows about the graphics card, but you'll find out in part 2 along with other things.